There is truly nothing more unserious than a bunch of female celebrities flying into space in a dong-shaped ship while claiming that they're astronauts saving humanity. But alas, that is 2025.
Was Katy Perry's Blue Origin space trip the ultimate female empowerment moment, or was it, as commentators like Brett Cooper suggest, an embarrassing disaster fueled by celebrity privilege? The pop star went up for a few minutes and came back down talking like a newly enlightened guru, sparking waves of mockery and harsh critiques. Cooper and others weren't buying the tear-filled PR narrative, instead pointing to what they saw as a cringeworthy display of Hollywood elitism completely detached from reality. Did Perry's brief joyride actually insult the legacy of real female pioneers? Did Brett Cooper nail it when she called out the absurdity of it all? Prepare for impact, because we're diving deep into why this so-called historic flight is being labeled a total catastrophe by its detractors.
Guys, this flight into space was propped up as some sort of historic endeavor because this was Blue Origin's first female crew. It was the first all-female crew that had ever gone to space since 1963, and because of that, it turned into a whole girl power movement.
Let's get the timeline straight. This wasn't exactly an Apollo mission. Blue Origin's rocket took Katy Perry and other passengers on a quick vertical hop, grazing the edge of space for maybe 4 actual minutes of float time before plummeting back to Earth. The whole thing, liftoff to landing, clocked in at around 10 minutes shorter than some of Perry's own hit songs. Yet the media machine kicked into high gear, ready to crown these celebrity tourists as groundbreaking astronauts. The narrative was pre-written. Brave women reaching for the stars, making history. But critics, echoing sentiments often voiced by commentators like Brett Cooper, immediately called foul. 10 minutes in an automated capsule, they argued, doesn't make you an astronaut any more than riding a roller coaster makes you an engineer. The sheer brevity of the flight, contrasted with the monumental significance being assigned to it, was the first sign that this mission might be less about exploration and more about generating headlines, a potential PR disaster waiting to happen.
Like, I literally thought that they were going to space for a few days. I thought that they were in training for months, that they were gonna go up to the International Space Station. Like, I've never paid attention to the Blue Origin flights. Like, that's Jeff Bezos' company, it's space tourism. I had no idea what was going on, but I literally thought that this was a serious endeavor. But no, the trip was 11 minutes long.
And then came Katy Perry's reaction. If the flight was short, the post-flight pronouncements were anything but modest. Perry described a profound, life-altering experience, speaking of universal love, connection, and seeing the Earth anew. She emerged in the eyes of critics less like an explorer and more like someone who just had a very expensive, heavily publicized spa treatment and felt compelled to share her vague epiphanies. This transformation into a space guru after mere minutes aloft became prime fodder for ridicule. Brett Cooper and similar commentators thrive on dissecting this kind of perceived Hollywood phoniness. They saw Perry's reaction not as genuine awe, but as performative depth, the kind of predictable, self-important response expected from celebrities insulated by wealth and fame. How could 4 minutes fundamentally change someone already living a life beyond most people's wildest dreams? It felt to skeptics incredibly hollow, bordering on insulting, especially when compared to the sacrifices and achievements of those who actually dedicate their lives to the final frontier. Perry, intended as the face of female space achievement, instead became, for many, the face of celebrity absurdity.
Just take a look at this graph. They leave Earth, they pop right up just into orbit so that they can look down and see Earth, and then they immediately come back down. Like, they experienced zero gravity and weightlessness for about 3 minutes.
This is where the disaster framing really takes hold, particularly when viewed through a lens like Brett Cooper's. The trip wasn't just silly, it was seen as actively damaging the legacy of real female astronauts. Women like Valentina Tereshkova, Sally Ride, Mae Jemison, Christina Koch, pioneers who endured grueling training, faced down sexism, spent months or years in harsh conditions, and conducted vital scientific research. Their journeys involved immense risk, profound dedication, and tangible contributions to human knowledge. Critics argued that placing Katy Perry's 10-minute automated joyride in the same category wasn't just inaccurate, it was a slap in the face. It trivialized their struggles and achievements, reducing the hard-won title of astronaut to a temporary status symbol bought with fame and connections. Cooper's style often involves defending traditional values and merit. From that perspective, celebrating Perry's trip as a win for women felt like participation trophy culture writ large, ignoring actual merit and sacrifice in favor of celebrity sparkle. This elevation of a fleeting, privileged experience over decades of real female accomplishment was, for many, the biggest disaster of the whole affair.
And they did all of this in a spaceship that literally looks like a wang. Like, even their graph here looks like just the tip, which is basically what they did. They just got to the tip of space, and then they came back down. Like, basically, in less scientific terms, this was the flight.
And the female empowerment angle? Critics like Cooper would likely label this the most cynical part of the whole spectacle. Wrapping a billionaire's vanity project featuring his fiancée and other wealthy celebrities in the language of feminist progress struck many as deeply disingenuous. True empowerment, they argue, comes from overcoming obstacles, from education, from breaking systemic barriers, not from getting a golden ticket onto Jeff Bezos' rocket. This felt like performative empowerment, using the aesthetics of progress to mask what was essentially an exclusive party for the elite. Where were the female engineers who built the rocket? The scientists whose work makes space travel possible? They weren't the ones getting the tearful interviews and fawning headlines. Instead, the spotlight shone on Perry and her cohort, reinforcing the idea that visibility and progress are reserved for the already famous and connected. For commentators focused on substance over symbolism, this wasn't just misguided, it was a deliberate manipulation using the language of social justice to sell a luxury experience, a tactic often criticized by figures like Cooper.
Just the tip into space for Gayle King and Katy Perry.
The backlash wasn't confined to just a few corners of the internet. Joe Rogan famously mocked the flight's perceived lack of substance, and his criticisms, alongside the perspective often championed by Brett Cooper, found a massive audience. They tapped into a growing public fatigue with celebrity culture's perceived excesses and its tendency towards self-congratulation. When Cooper or Rogan destroy a narrative like this, they articulate a frustration felt by many: the disconnect between the manufactured reality presented by media and elites and the common-sense observations of everyday people. Accusations of misogyny were predictably leveled against the critics, but defenders fired back, insisting the issue wasn't gender, but the blatant absurdity of hailing a brief automated tourist flight as a historic achievement for anyone. They argued that calling out Perry's perceived shallowness or the trip's lack of real significance wasn't anti-woman, it was anti-nonsense. This sharp, unapologetic critique, very much in the vein of Cooper's commentary style, framed the flight not as a step forward, but as a step sideways into a bizarre reality show version of space exploration.
So let's see them in action, taking up all of that space for our benefit.
Deploy from the crew capsule. Those are like the guide parachutes. There go the drogue parachutes.
Just free falling right there until those drogues came out.
Let's not forget the sheer blinding privilege of it all. A point commentators like Brett Cooper consistently hammer home when discussing elite behavior. This wasn't just a trip, it was a potent symbol of the widening gap between the super rich and everyone else. While millions struggle, billionaires are literally launching their friends and partners into space for 10-minute kicks. The cost of just one of these flights could fund countless scholarships, support vital research, or address tangible problems on Earth. Katy Perry, already living a life of immense wealth and opportunity, became the face of this perceived extravagance. Critics saw her participation not as inspiring, but as flaunting unearned access. This wasn't about democratizing space, it was about reinforcing hierarchy. The billionaire privilege cringe, as some called it, was palpable. Perry's wide-eyed wonder might have seemed genuine to some, but to critics analyzing the situation through a lens of class and merit, it looked like the oblivious bliss of someone completely removed from the concerns of ordinary life, making the entire event feel less like history and more like a decadent spectacle funded by Bezos' empire.
Here's the thing, I don't want to spend this entire episode just making fun of these women because, look, I'm glad that they had a great time. These are rich women, they are celebrities, they can do whatever they want with their money, but this was not some big leap for women. Like, that is utterly ridiculous to assert. I mean, this entire thing was basically a glorified bachelorette trip.
And the media? Critics argue they were largely complicit in constructing this disaster. Instead of asking tough questions or providing crucial context, many outlets eagerly amplified the hype. Breathless coverage focused on the celebrity reactions, the emotional reunions, and the carefully crafted empowerment narrative. Skepticism was often sidelined in favor of feel-good stories and access to the stars. Commentators like Brett Cooper often critique legacy media for pushing specific agendas or failing to challenge powerful figures. In this case, the media's willingness to parrot the PR lines, to treat Perry's 10-minute float as profoundly significant without serious scrutiny, looked like another example of that dynamic. They helped inflate the bubble, celebrating a fleeting moment as a monumental achievement while often ignoring the more complex, less glamorous realities of both space exploration and the fight for genuine equality. This uncritical echo chamber allowed the narrative to spin out of control, creating the very conditions for the eventual backlash and the perception of the event as a PR failure.
Like, honestly, the bigger innovation, the bigger leap forward for women was the fact that Lauren Sanchez redesigned the astronaut suits for women. And she made them flattering and comfortable and hugging all the right places. Like, that genuinely might have had a greater impact on female astronauts than a celebrity feminist joyride.
Beyond the social critiques and accusations of stolen valor, there's another layer to this perceived disaster: the environmental cost. Launching rockets, especially for brief tourist jaunts, carries a significant carbon footprint. Critics, often aligned with the skepticism voiced by commentators like Brett Cooper, were quick to point out the staggering inefficiency and environmental irresponsibility. While billionaires preach about climate change or sustainability, they simultaneously fund ventures that pump tons of CO2 into the upper atmosphere for what amounts to a few minutes of entertainment for the ultra-elite. Katy Perry floating weightlessly became for some a symbol not just of social disconnection but of ecological indifference. Was the fleeting thrill and the PR buzz worth the environmental toll, especially when framed against global efforts to combat climate change? For those already critical of the mission's premise, the environmental argument added another powerful charge. This wasn't just tone-deaf, it was potentially harmful on a planetary scale, adding another dimension to the disaster narrative.
Like, watching them exit that spacecraft, like, that might have been even funnier than the actual event itself or anything leading up to it. And I know that I keep saying, I don't want to rain on their parade, and then I just continue making fun of them, but it's genuinely so ridiculous because we all saw how not impactful the entire event was, and it felt like they were the only ones who were not in on the joke.
What does this Katy Perry spectacle signal for the future of space travel? If this is what making history looks like now, automated flights, celebrity passengers delivering tearful soundbites, and media hype overshadowing actual science, are we watching the devolution of space exploration into just another form of reality television? Commentators like Brett Cooper often lament the decline of substance in favor of spectacle, and this Blue Origin flight seemed tailor-made for that critique. Instead of inspiring awe for human ingenuity and scientific discovery, critics argue it risks making space seem frivolous, a playground for the rich and famous rather than the next frontier for humanity.
Like, Katy Perry, she literally kissed the ground as she exited the spaceship after being gone for 11 minutes. Just watch.
Katie!
Woo!
Does the intense focus on celebrity reactions and manufactured drama detract from public understanding and support for the difficult, long-term work being done by NASA and other serious space organizations? The fear is that these high-profile, low-substance joyrides could ultimately cheapen the very idea of space exploration, turning it into just another fleeting trend consumed for entertainment, ultimately damaging the public's perception of its true value and importance.
She's kissing the freaking ground again when she was gone for 11 minutes. Like, imagine being one of the astronauts who was just stuck up in space for over 9 months, and you watch this celebrity pop star twirling daisies and skipping and flipping her hair and kissing the ground because she's so happy to be home after she was literally up in space for 3 minutes. Because of feminism. Because it's feminism, because she's changing the world.
So did Brett Cooper and other critics successfully destroy Katy Perry's Blue Origin narrative? They undeniably expose the vast chasm between the manufactured hype and the underwhelming reality. The 10-minute flight, Perry's guru pronouncements, the questionable claims of female empowerment, the staggering display of privilege, and the environmental concerns all combine to create what many view as a PR disaster, not a historic triumph. By framing it as an insult to real astronauts, a mockery of genuine achievement, and potentially harmful to both the environment and the public perception of space, critics dismantled the carefully constructed image. Perry, perhaps unintentionally, became a symbol of celebrity excess and perceived disconnection, fueling concerns about space exploration devolving into reality TV. Whether you see it as a harmless bit of space tourism or a cringeworthy spectacle that deserved the mockery, one thing is clear. The attempt to package this brief, expensive joyride as a profound leap for womankind backfired spectacularly for many observers. What's your take? Was this a milestone moment, or was Brett Cooper right to call out the disaster? Drop your thoughts below and hit subscribe if you appreciate commentary that cuts through the noise and questions the narratives pushed by the powerful.